Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another tropical update here by Adrian to the Forecast. This is going to be another update on the potential tropical disturbance that will form in the next coming days in the Gulf of Mexico. It could potentially become a tropical depression and maybe even make landfall on Florida. This will start the Atlantic hurricane season 3 weeks earlier than obviously June 1st. So it's very likely this definitely be a sign of potential for a very long and active season. But of course, this is not looking like it's going to become a hurricane, and there's a possibility it won't become a tropical storm. There's a 50% chance it will become a tropical storm. But either way, we're going to go ahead and check out the major updates. We have huge updates on the future radar, huge updates on the wind shear, huge updates on the winds on this potential system and all of that. So very likely we can possibly have this invest form. The date of potential formation will possibly be airs into maybe late Friday to maybe early Saturday. So that's going to be our area of focus, and then it'll be moving throughout the central Gulf of Mexico and possibly hit Florida. But if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. But without further ado, let's get in this video. So as you can tell in the 5-day tropical weather outlook for the Atlantic, we have nothing. But very likely this can possibly change, where we possibly do have a 30% chance. Most likely, possibly, if we have this invest form. Of course, our area of focus, and based on not only my opinion, but other people say we can possibly have this formation area right here. This is where possibly have our formation potentially right here, and then possibly moving to the areas into Florida. So that's where, as of right now, we don't have anything on the NOAA for the tropical weather outlook, but very soon that could possibly change. Now we're going to be looking at the SST temperature, or SST, which is Sea Surface Temperature Anomaly, or SSTA. And as you can tell, we do have above average temperatures throughout much of the Gulf of Mexico and much of the, of course, Western Atlantic. So really, we don't really have a focus right here. So this is not our area of focus. This is our area of focus where we have this potential development. We're going to possibly see up to 1 to 2, so maybe even 2.5 degrees above average in some of these areas, and maybe even right here we have up to 3 degrees above average. That is absolutely crazy here. And look, where we have our potential area of development, they are in the worst of this above average temperatures there. We will, of course, this is still up to maybe 72 hours out from forming, if not maybe getting closer to maybe 60 hours away from forming. But we still have a little bit of pocket of colder air right here. I know that won't do much, but since this will possibly be either a tropical depression or a very weak tropical storm, this will probably fall apart very easily as well. So if this pocket of cooler air does warm up a little bit, then we might have to watch out a tad, because that could possibly increase the threat for a tropical storm. But that's all going to depending as well on the wind shear. If the wind shear comes in and this does warm up, that doesn't really mean anything, because that wind shear possibly most likely just take it down. Because either way, this would be very weak system. As of right now, tropical storm isn't very likely, but I would not doubt if we see one. I would not be surprised, but it would most likely be an extremely weak tropical storm, or a very strong tropical depression. So we already have very warm temperatures. That is one check on the box for a potential tropical development. Now we're going to go ahead and check out the Gulf of Mexico radar here, the future radar. So it has actually changed a lot, and it's actually not getting any better. It's actually looking like we have a potential higher risk or higher potential for this system developing. So we're going to be possibly seeing this now on May 9th. This is where we're going to be seeing our area of focus of this potential development here. So here we have here we have all our moisture, precipitation out there into near the Texas and Mexico border there, and to the far western Gulf of Mexico. As you get later into Saturday, here we have the system right here. You can see the system. There's the center of this extremely heavy rain there. So as you can tell, it does have really large outer bands of this system for this system here. Here we have our low pressure system. Most likely right here is our low pressure system. And here we have our system. This is definitely going to bring in a lot of rain throughout the coastal Gulf of Mexico for these areas, as it could possibly be very large. And look at this. Later by Sunday, here we still have the system right here going north of the Cancun Peninsula area, and it's now going to possibly bring in outer bands all the way to Texas and outer bands all the way to Cuba. So very large system, but here is possibly the center of this system right there. Let's possibly see the heaviest of the rainfall. And look at this, possibly late Sunday, this possibly near Florida, and this is going to bring in a whole ton of rain for South Florida, and also some scattered showers throughout much of Cuba and northern Florida. And it looks like it could possibly, of course, make a landfall into the areas near Miami, Fort Lauderdale, areas into Naples. This is where we possibly have the potential right here. As you can tell, it does possibly make a landfall right here throughout the Naples area in southwestern Florida. And it goes straight through, possibly going over Miami, possibly going to Fort Lauderdale, Homestead. And that can possibly bring extremely heavy rain out for the Gulf of Mexico. But you can tell that little pressure system is right over Miami. So this is definitely causing a lot of damage no matter what. Even if it's not a tropical storm, we're going to be seeing significant flooding in these areas for sure. So that now that we looked at that, let's go ahead and check out the rainfall totals here. Total accumulated precipitation. As you can tell, you can just see the track of this. So as you can tell, kind of looks like it develops right here. This is possibly where it develops. And then you can see its track. So we can already see our track based on the precipitation. Of course, we can't say this is going to be the real track because, of course, it's still days out. So we can't say it's we can even see a track as of right now. This thing hasn't even formed yet, so we can't really say this track is going to be 100% accurate. But this is a track as of right now. This is our so this is basically our potential cone for the system to go. So it looks like it could possibly definitely hit areas in southern Florida, the northern Bahamas, and possibly skin over and bring extremely heavy rain for Cuba. So you can definitely see this track. It's going to bring it up to possibly 7 to maybe even 9 inches of rain throughout the central Gulf. And look at this, into areas in southern Florida, we can possibly have 4 to 5.5 inches of rain within a 24-hour time period, which is absolutely crazy. Now let's go ahead and look at the European radar. So for the people who saw European, it did show it now going in between Cuba and Mexico and falling apart. This is absolutely different now. So here we have, still by Saturday, here we have the potential area development just into the far western Gulf. And here you have it right here by later Sunday. Here you have our potential tropical depression right here just off the coast of Mexico. Here we have our outer bands though throughout, that's going to be affecting Texas, Louisiana, and all the way into Cancun. We can see outer bands throughout these areas of this tropical depression or tropical disturbance. As by Sunday, it's going to be moving a bit of slower pace than the GFS. So we're going to continue to see it move into the central now Gulf of Mexico. Most likely seeing our low pressure system right here. And as you can tell, we're going to be seeing some, these isobars are going to be a bit closer. That is indicating, of course, that strong winds. As we now move later into Sunday, look at this major system and bringing extremely heavy rain throughout southern and central Florida. And here we have our potential, this is potentially where we have our the center of our system or center of our disturbance, and it goes straight over areas out there into southern Florida. So Miami, Homestead, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Naples. All you guys are in the path of this potential tropical depression. I'm not going to say tropical storm because obviously it hasn't even formed yet, but I'm not going to rule out the possibility for a tropical storm. I'm not going to rule out the possibility. It's likely. You're about to see why in the maximum sustained winds later on in the video. I'm not going to rule out the possibility, but it's not extremely likely. So now let's go ahead and check out the total precipitation here. If I can find it. So total of accumulated precipitation. Let's go ahead and check out total precipitation right here. So we're going to be seeing exactly how much rain we'll be seeing in these areas right here if this actually loads. Look at this. You can see the track as well with this potential area development right here, and then it goes right here. Same thing with the European model. We have a potential area of focus with this extremely heavy rain. We're going to possibly see up to around most likely 4 to 6 inches of rain for southern Florida, but right off the coast we can possibly see up to 7 to 8 inches of snowfall or rainfall. But here we have our potential area of focus right here. This could very well be a tropical system right here as well. So cannot rule out the possibility for this. And so as you can tell, you can just see the track on this. You can just see this cone right here. You can see that potential area of focus right there. And now, as we look into the maximum sustained winds, here we have now these very strong winds out here where we have that potential area of focus. We're going to be seeing around 20 knots already in the system, so most likely going to be a tropical depression. And as we now move later on, here we have our system. By May 10th, here we have our little area of circulation, our formation here of winds. We did not see that yesterday. There's nothing. That's why I didn't show it yesterday, but there was nothing. Now we have a potential system right here as well. Here you do have it. We can possibly see 28 knots in these areas, which is actually a strong tropical depression. That is a strong tropical depression. We are not too far off from tropical storm force winds. Look at this. We are possibly seeing, let's go ahead and check out the winds on this system if I can check right here. So we're going to be seeing quite the strong winds in these areas as well. You can definitely see we're going to possibly drop up to 2.3 inches of rain. So that's absolutely crazy. And as you can tell, we're going to be seeing, as you can tell, just a lot of energy in this. But as you see right there, we are seeing possibly tropical storm force winds in the system. Possibly, it's a potential for tropical storm force winds. Just skinning of this, because I believe for tropical storm force winds, like you need at least 39 miles per hour or greater. This is going to get close to that 39 miles per hour. It actually might reach 39 exactly. That's absolutely crazy. So this is most likely showing 32 knots. This is knots, so not miles per hour. So this is showing possibly 32 knots. So if that 32 knots goes really any higher, that's potentially getting closer and closer to a very, very weak tropical storm. 32 knots is like, what, I think 37 miles per hour? That's 2 miles per hour away. So we can't rule out the possibility. If it maybe most likely 34 miles per hour, maybe that's a bit different. But this is getting close to 37 miles per hour. As we look at vorticity, so the amount of rotation, here you have it right here, May 10th. Here we have a potential area of rotation on this system, and there you see it by later Sunday on the 10th. Here we continue to see it move closer and closer to the western Florida area, and by Monday it potentially makes that landfall there. The vorticity actually shows it moving just south, hitting maybe Key West, but of course models do change. Now the last thing we're going to be looking at is the wind shear. Wind shear is the opposite of severe weather. With severe weather, wind shear is bringing with a lot of wind shear, it's gonna make the thunderstorms a lot stronger and more severe. Opposite with hurricanes and tropical systems, the more wind shear, the more this system either won't form, or if it forms, it'll fall apart a lot faster. So let's say it's a hurricane. Not this, but let's say for example, there's a hurricane and there's a huge wave of wind shear that can possibly take it down to a tropical storm, or either take it off track and go to cooler waters. So May 8th, this is the day before that potential development. Here you have this pocket of very little wind shear. We're going to be seeing a lot of wind shear to the south and to the north. So we have an open window of some wind shear. Obviously, there's going to be some wind shear in the atmosphere, but it's very, very, very little here. Very little wind shear whatsoever in those areas. Of course, it's not nothing, but it's going to minimize that threat for, it's going to minimize that possibility for taking down systems. And as we now get later into May 9th, then we're seeing a bit more wind shear here. We're seeing a little bit more wind shear in the potential area development. That's our area of development right there. So we are seeing a bit more wind shear by later into the Saturday 9th in the morning. But look at this. Now we have where our potential system is. Right where it is, we have a pocket right here with very, very little wind shear. So if that does seem to be what's the case, then that could possibly maybe increase the size a little bit and strength of that system. But by later, closer into now May 11th, when it gets very close, actually by later May 10th, by May 10th on the end of the day, it will possibly be right here. And look, we have a ton of wind shear. So it's very, very likely we can see this thing fall apart right before landfall. So even if it does become a tropical storm, it'll probably weaken to a tropical depression before it makes landfall. So as of right now, we are possibly looking again at a tropical system. Maximum winds will possibly be tropical storm force winds, but very, very weak, maybe maximum. As of right now, maximum winds will be 37 miles per hour, but of course, it's not too far off from tropical storm force winds, and that could possibly start off our first named system of the year. Hope you guys, or for the Atlantic, obviously, or of the year in general. Hope you guys did enjoy the video, and bye, guys.